I know. There are culture wars being fought out across the pond from us in the United States, post the presidential vote of the 3rd of November. But I'm not going to go there. I'm going to stay in London, and I'm going to talk for a few minutes about the challenges facing us as we enter today, Thursday, into our second lockdown. So welcome to Arm Wrestling with COVID-19 in London. This is number 40. It's quite a challenge and it's quite a dilemma, I think, for most of us as we face another 4 weeks until the 2nd of December, at least theoretically, of a national lockdown. That is not so different from the first lockdown, except insofar that schools and colleges and universities are still working. But other than that, it feels very much like the first lockdown we had earlier this year. And of course, there have been arguments for and arguments against this lockdown. I've heard personally on the radio, on one of my favorite BBC Radio 4 programs, the Today program, I've heard many people. I've heard the Community Secretary Robert Jenrick. I heard Lord Buckland, the Lord Chancellor, and the Secretary of State for Justice. I've heard also the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, Michael Gove. I hope I got the titles right there. All of them coming and basically, to be honest with you, confusing us even more with the contradictory statements that they come up with. But at the end of the day, there is one consistent thread across all this since we started grappling with this coronavirus, with this pandemic in the UK, and I suppose across the world. What is that common thread? That we are facing a challenge between lives and livelihood, between health and wealth. I've said this consistently throughout my YouTube episodes, and facts haven't changed. The reason why the Prime Minister, I think, agreed to a second lockdown, probably against his own instincts, is because the data he was presented, the graphs that he saw prepared by the medical and scientific officers showed that the number of deaths and the number of cases is going to soar if nothing is done more substantial than the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 lockdowns. And I suppose in a sense, I have a problem there because I think the government acted late. If it had applied those different tiers earlier, say in September, perhaps we will have been spared this lockdown. Be that as it may, we are where we are. And from what I understand, there are those who are saying, yes, we need this lockdown because at the end of the day, it's our lives and health that is at stake. And there are others who are saying, hold on, 4 weeks of closing down London, England, is going to wipe out £8 billion from the economy. Can we afford that at this stage where we are printing money, quantitative easing, like there's no tomorrow? Somebody's got to pay for that. Eventually, when we're out of this predicament, maybe it'll be us, maybe it'll be the younger generations. So there is this clash of cultures. It's not only in America a political culture war, there is a culture war here between those who are saying economy first and those who are saying health and lives first. And I think that is something we should really think of seriously. Personally, maybe it's my background, maybe it's the way I think, maybe it's my age, whatever. I personally think that I'd rather deprive myself of the income, of the ease with which I can live, so long as I can actually live. Now, there are those who are saying, no, 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 that is a false argument and it doesn't stand. So we're facing this confusing situation, but we are in it for the 4 weeks. And my hope is that there will be a sense of togetherness. Because what I have noticed being so different between the first lockdown and this one that we've just entered into today is that the sense of community spirit is far less obvious today. People are tired, people are fed up, people are frustrated, people are saying enough is enough, we're not going to do this anymore, we're going to sort of get on with our lives and come what may. Well, that is, to put it mildly, selfish, but it's also in a sense understandable. And it's happening across the whole of Europe, Spain, France, Italy, elsewhere. People are just fed up. But the virus is still there. The vaccine hasn't yet been approved, or the vaccines in the plural have not yet been approved. And in a sense, what do we do today faced with this challenge? And I think one of the things that I would like to leave with you, one of the thoughts that I'd like to leave with you, is basically this. The social cohesion that we had in this country, where we were all facing this pandemic together, irrespective of our own viewpoints, is dissipating, is disappearing. The structures of what makes a society come together, stay together, and confront the challenges together, frail as it might be in most cases across the world, was still there during the first lockdown. I personally feel that at the moment, it's more vulnerable and less solid. And that worries me. And it worries me on two levels. It worries me on the level of, will it stand out the challenges of those people who will say, no, 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 we're going to go to the park, we're going to go and mix with other people. What is going to happen during those 4 weeks? And also, the second thing is what's going to happen on the 2nd of December. I'm not yet convinced myself that on the 2nd of December, we're going to get out of the national lockdown and everything is going to be hunky-dory. The government admits it's not going to be hunky-dory, but it thinks that it can deal with the virus according to the different tiers on the 2nd of December. Let's hope that happens. I'm not yet convinced, fingers crossed if you want. But that sense of togetherness, that sense of solidarity, that sense of thinking of our NHS hospitals. Yes, we used to clap. I haven't heard anybody suggesting that we clap again, perhaps because we're not at that critical stage yet. But I think something has changed. And that change could be worrying, could be concerning. I hate that word. If we do not stick together and we do not fight this challenge together. That is really the message. I'm fed up, living on my own, thrust to the vagaries of anything that could happen. I have to soldier on, as it were. And I'm sure a lot of people, young and old, will do together. That sense of cohesiveness, that sense of togetherness, that sense of society coming together. And on that level, I'm going to just throw in another word or two about the conversation that's happening, and I'm close to some of the circles where this conversation is taking place, about the houses of worship that have also been closed again. There are some people who are grumbling. There are some priests in the Christian tradition who are grumbling, I know. I also heard the Cardinal Archbishop of Westminster, Vincent Nichols, again on the Radio 4 program today, expressing his anguish. And that is a word that's a very powerful word that incidentally was in a letter sent by the bishops of the Catholic bishops of England and Wales to the Prime Minister. That sense of anguish, which was used by the Prime Minister in one of his press conferences, is real, is palpable. And I understand the argument about the churches having done their utmost to keep the places of worship clean, well sanitized. But let's remember that we in London particularly, and also outside London in the many major metropolises, are not the only faith tradition. This is a multicultural country, and it might be far more difficult to implement the rules with other traditions than it would be with the Catholic, or for that matter, with the Christian tradition. So in a sense, we come back to the same thing. We're in this together, and let's hope that we will be able to get to the 2nd of December, where two things will happen. One, well, three perhaps. One, we will have withstood the test of those 4 weeks together. Secondly, that the R rate, particularly in London, where it is soaring compared to other parts of the country, where the R rate will have dropped down sufficiently to allow other measures to continue leading up to Christmas. Christmas is coming. Diwali celebrations were pretty much cancelled. Will Christmas also be cancelled? It will change, it will morph, it will be a different kind of Christmas, but will it be cancelled out completely? Let's hope that on the 2nd of December, the verdict is more positive than that. And the third and most important point is that somehow, whether it's AstraZeneca, whether it's another one, whether it's Oxford, whether it's whatever, that we will have been closer to finding a vaccine that will help us get out of this terrible, terrible plight that we've been facing. One, incidentally, that the world has faced in the past for longer periods. But you know what? Our span of attention and our patience in today's world is far shorter than what it was before. I want it today is pretty much the motto with some people. Let's hope we'll see this through. And let's hope that the 2nd of December will bring in some glad tidings. Take care and all the best from me, from number 40, and from a scene of London behind me with closed. Take care.